Hello, good people. Welcome back to another episode of Ella Marie TV. Today, I am thrilled to bring you an episode with Keisha Howard of Sugargamers. And
I am thrilled to be.
Yeah, you.
So I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. Like, you don't even know. I've been wanting to talk to you and interview you for so long. I think you are just so amazing, so cool. And if you all don't know, just one look at Keisha's page, you all will understand what I'm talking about. She is just at the forefront of so many things in gaming and technology and the future, and solar punk and cyberpunk and all these different things. So I'm really excited to dive a little bit more into those topics and hear more about Keisha's background and how she got started with what she's doing. So welcome, Keisha. Yay! So the first question, of course, is tell us about your background and sort of how you got started into this. I know you mentioned in one of your TED Talks that when you were younger, you wanted to be like this badass superhero, all these different things. And I think you're doing that. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
I mean, I'm a stone. I mean, like a lot of people just do not believe me when I say this, but I am a stone cold introvert. So I spent so many of my younger years basically sort of by myself, in solitude. I only had a few friends. And when I wasn't doing that, I was hanging out with my brothers who, and they're, a chunk older than me. So being 7 years older than me, they would buy their own video games. They had their own summer jobs and I got to play with them.
Right.
So, that's kind of my entry, like being an introvert, being a bookworm, and then being a little sister.
Yeah.
Kind of led me on this path.
I love that. I think, a lot of times we don't give Black women as introverts don't get as much credit, right? But we really have to really think about that aspect because it really is important in defining who we are and things like that. And people tend to write us off if we're introverts, things like that. And it's no, you have a brilliant mind. You're just not going to waste your time talking to people.
I was talking to a friend the other day and she was saying, that there's more than one flavor of awkward Black girl.
Yes.
And now since Issa Rae has kind of opened up that door for that conversation, there are just so many different ways in which being nerdy and awkward and also a Black woman can exist. And I am one of those flavors.
It is so true. I love being a blurred. I'm a blurred in multiple different ways, but definitely when it comes to space and I'm obsessed with NASA launches and all those different things. But I think, a lot of times until Issa sort of started telling our story, it really was sort of that's kind of weird, but it's not. It's amazing and beautiful and really results in a lot of really cool things. So what is Sugargamers? Tell us about how you came up with the title for that and sort of what you're doing with that work.
I mean, it was all accidental. Wow. So, I've been a lifelong gamer. Yeah. I've been gaming since I was 10 and I always sort of thought about it. But, growing up, I didn't really see a pathway into having a career in that space. I didn't see any women. I didn't see any people of color. And that whole conversation is tired. We know what's going on. So, I was working in luxury real estate in 2008. And if you were around during that time, that was the last Great Recession. Right. And it was during that time that the rules that I had been following for life sort of kind of didn't work out for me. That whole go to school, work really hard, keep your head down, get a good job with benefits, be a good girl, don't do this, don't do that. And then everything I worked for pretty much disintegrated in 1 year. So it, instead of being oh, woe is me, I was just well, let me try out some different weird things. Right. So one of those things I tried out was being a model manager for a company, which was not my thing. I tried out being a party promoter, all kinds of things. But where and in the back of my head, I was you know what, it would be so cool if there was just a small group here in Chicago with women and people of color, and we could all get together and game, but it doesn't have to be competitive. We don't have to be, oh, I'm better at you at this game. Do you know how, Halo 2 works and on episode 36 Star Trek? And it's can we just be hey, let me introduce you warmly to the things that I enjoy, and maybe you'll enjoy it too. So I always had that old school, playground friendship making. So I'm just like, you want to play games with me? That's how I like usually talk to people. Anyways, so I this isn't, I don't even know if people still use Craigslist like that, but I'll put an ad.
It's coming back. I think it's making a comeback for sure.
I put an ad on Craigslist just asking for women who were into games if they would want to join a community and have events and meet in real life. And I got a amazing response from all of these different women who was like, hey, I want to be a part of this community, but I'm not good at games. Can I still be a part of it? Like, I want to be a part of this community, but I don't play shooter games. I play Tetris. I play Mario. Can I still be a part of this community? And I was like, yeah. And I didn't realize I stumbled into a void that was in the industry, you know, which was a community for social, casual gamers, a community for people who might have other interests. And gaming might not be their complete focus, but they do enjoy it and they want a community for it. They want to talk to people about what they like. And then the title just came from my two favorite things, which was at the time, sugar and gaming. And I can't really even eat sugar like that, but I love sugar and I love games. And it evolved from there. And after a couple of years, I did not want it to be only women because there were so many different types of people who had overlapping narratives and who wanted to be allies and who wanted to be a part of where this was going. And so it's just everybody who understands and appreciates our mission. So
I absolutely love that. And it's reflected on your site, reflected in the people that you work with and all those different things. I really commend you for sort of filling in that void for a lot of people. And I think, you know, I talked to Kevin Fair, who's of I Play Games, and you know, we were talking a little bit about the aspect of, you know, women in gaming is always just really like, people are kind of like, like, well, I only do this. So is that okay? And it's like, yes, it's totally okay. So like, I play Animal Crossing, right? Like that's my big thing right now. I also play Mario games and things like that. I used to love like GoldenEye when I was younger, but I don't play, you know, I saw you did an interview with like PUBG. Like I haven't played like any of those games yet. I love The Sims, right? And like all of that counts. So I appreciate you making space for that, because a lot of times, especially in the gaming world, if you're not playing World of Warcraft or all the different games that the guys are playing, it's not apparently, you know,
Fortnite.
Like there are more games than that.
And the games that you play are so important to your intellectual sort of development. They have different flavors of intellectual merit, different ways that you can connect to people. And I think that variety is something that we really need to talk more about, so more people can understand why this space is so important.
Yes, definitely agree. So then I saw that you started, and help me if the name Project Violacia, is that how you say it?
That's our game. So
is it an in real life RPG, so role player game? Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah. So it's a multimedia experience because the reason why I even created it in the first place is I don't know if you know, but I was on a robot combat show that was sort of reality TV, right?
Got it.
Almost 10 years ago. And several years ago, I was asked to be on another reality show to pitch a game.
Got it.
But at the time, I wasn't a game developer. Sugargamers acted as a community in a media company.
Right.
But they couldn't find anybody in my flavoring to be you know, on TV to talk about game development.
Right.
So I was like, well, yeah, you know, I'll do it, but I'm not going to look stupid. And so I like experimented with different ways that we could sort of say we're developing a game. And Project Violacia was how we did it. We got the community together. Everyone cosplayed. Everyone had their own backstory, like a role-playing game. And we took all these pictures because ain't nobody, you know, at the time, I did not have the skills to develop, you know, 3D characters. And we created a game pitch. And then, of course, that show pilot got canceled.
Right.
But I then had all these materials, and I'm like, I'm not going to let this die. And so our first iteration of this IP is tabletop RPG, very similar to Dungeons and Dragons. So if you think about Dungeons and Dragons, that's like an analog version of a digital role-playing game. So that's what's going to be next.
Yeah.
So, and there's a few different pathways that we're going to do that. Like, one of them is being on a system called the Last Game Board, which is a digital game board, which is interactive, but it's still like playing with pieces on a board. Very similar.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about Dungeons and Dragons, except for our IP takes place in the future.
Right.
You can be a representation of yourself, no matter what that is. So you don't have to be no goblin.
Right.
You don't have to be no orc, which is a huge thing, because a lot of those other games, if Black people were represented, they were represented in ways that aren't necessarily humans. They're in subhuman fashion, and like we don't like that. So you can be whatever you want. You can identify however you want in your classes. Is the two jobs that you have in the future.
Okay.
And the whole object is like, how do you solve future problems?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more, easy to get into, because we are living in sort of this reality in which we're constantly thinking about the future. So that's what Project Violation is. And
I will put the trailer in the comment section so that you all can see it. But yeah, it's a really great trailer. I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like really immersive, and like really, you all did a really great job with like the profiles and things like that on the side, and everybody having their own character development. So I think that's a really dope project. Can't wait to see the next iteration of that for sure. You kind of segued into another question that I have, which is sort of about like, what does the future look like, right? And I asked this in like a sort of philosophical way, but also you're creating the future that you want to see. And so I sort of ask it in like both a philosophical way, and then in a way of like, what future are you creating? And what world do you think we'll live in?
I mean, that's a question I think about all the time. My friends laugh at me because I have been contemplating the apocalypse since I was about 11 or 12, and it's an ongoing joke. There's like, what would I do? They're gonna come meet me. I already have the plan. But on a serious note, it's about rethinking systems. And, in order to sort of create the future that we want to be in, we have to understand the systems in which we already exist in, and how they impact us, and if we really want to be in those systems, take part in those systems and hierarchies, right? Because, again, as I was telling you in the beginning, follow the directions of the system, but the system wasn't necessarily built for people in my flavoring to thrive and succeed in certain areas. So how does that system work for me? How do I modify it? How do I destroy it? How do I change it? How do I work outside of it? And then you can start thinking about the future and how to create communities around these sort of progressive thinking strategies. Because we don't have to just accept what we're given. We can, there's so much more that we can do to think outside of that. In order to do that, though, you have to like sort of unplug from whatever your day to day is, and challenge yourself to do things outside of your comfort zone, to learn about people and places, ideas and perspectives that you wouldn't normally be exposed to. That's more important than ever, especially on social media, when we're all put into our echo chambers through algorithms and so on and so forth. So challenging ourselves to do things that we normally wouldn't do, so we can understand and expand our thinking, so we can create a future that we really want to be a part of, instead of sort of going with the flow and letting things happen. So for me, I think that there are going to be more and more people who are doing that, who are taking that time to sort of unplug and recreate. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people who kind of, sort of stay in the system. And I don't necessarily know what that's going to look like, but I do know that in the next 5 or 10 years, we're all going to be challenged in sort of ways that take us out of our comfort zones. And it's going to be very important how we connect with other human beings, more than anything else. As much as I love technology, it cannot replace our humanity. And, that's where we're going. That's where I think we're headed, at least.
Well, it's okay. Two things that I've learned. One, when the apocalypse does come, I'm calling you, and I will be in your bunker because clearly you have it all set out. But also, I think it's, there are people who get credit for thinking like that, right? So like Elon Musk's and things like that, and it's like, hello, like it's not just those rich, wealthy people that are thinking about these things, right? And so I think it's really important to share your knowledge and share your story and all those different things. And I love that you're a futurist and the way in which you think about the future, because I don't think about it as much as you do, but I do think about the future. And I love how you talked about breaking down the structures and the systems that are already in place and really, detaching yourself from it and then re-engaging with it, right? I think that's really going to be important as we move forward as well.
And you brought up a good point about like the celebrity futurist that we all follow and put on a pedestal. And the interesting thing about being a futurist is, and once you deconstruct these systems, you realize that there's no real new ideas. So it's even hard for me to even, be like, I'm a futurist, because all of my, I have been given knowledge from my aunt. Like I spend time with my grandmother all the time, and you would think like you hanging out with an old lady, but she's giving me information. She's giving me information from a lived experience, and I'm not getting it from an algorithm of what the internet wants me to see so I can buy something. My point is that these people like Elon Musk are usually also credited with being original thinkers, when really, that's not necessarily always the case.
Yeah. I always tell people my great grandfather is going to be 99 this year, and I love talking to him because he and this other guy that I met when I lived in Japan, Okamoto-san, have both told me like you need to really focus on like humanities and like arts and things like that. Robots are going to take over jobs. Like you have to be able to be creative and like use your mind. And they've both told me that, and they're both, Okamoto-san was in his 80s, and my grandfather, as I mentioned, is in his late 90s, and it's like they know, like that's the reality of it, right? But then, people like Elon Musk get credit for it because they have a platform like Twitter and Dogecoin and all those different things, and are able to do that. But I'm like, people are really out here thinking about these things, and they're not really getting sort of their voices heard. And I just think you are so amazing and so cool. So I really love hearing about your thoughts about it, because I really respect you and really think that you're at the forefront of these things. So I guess that sort of segues into my next part, which is what has been the best part about launching Sugargamers, sort of leaning into your passion and being a Black woman in this space, because I think we often talk about the negative parts, but what's been the best part for you about being in this space as a Black woman?
Oh man, it's just always challenging, but it's, how there's this whole idea of Black excellence, right? And I think that comes with the acceptance of some adversity that, we will have to deal with based on gender and race. Sugargamers has definitely put me in a situation where I'm accountable for my excellence. So I can't just be like, oh, this is hard because I'm a woman. This is hard because I'm Black. This is hard because I'm an entrepreneur. This is hard because I'm poor. This is hard because of this. This is hard. Like, of course it is. And I am responsible and accountable for finding a solution anyway. And that is how I can claim my excellence. So that's what it means to me. I can't, like go around being like woe is me. I can't adopt that narrative, because the narrative I want to have is excellence, is progressiveness, is future forward. And I don't want to necessarily lean into the fact that, like, yes, of course, I have experienced oppression and racism and sexism, of course. But that's not what I'm going to focus on. It doesn't mean it hasn't impacted me, but it always constantly, like, how can I, with my life, set the table for the generation that's coming behind me, or, after me, and give them like some good nuggets to move forward to. I don't want to perpetuate oppression. I want to perpetuate excellence. I want to perpetuate solutions. Like, we can do this, we can change this. We have the power to be even bigger and better than our ancestors' wildest dreams, and so on and so forth. And that's how it's been. And it's, not only that, one of the positives is, having that mindset has definitely lent itself to me having more opportunities, because I'm not scared. I'm like, I know, like, I am here in this flavor, and it might be the only one of me, but I am here. I belong here, and it's important that I'm here. So, and I've gotten a lot of opportunities that way, and of just getting over the fear, getting over the hurdles, understanding that it's not going to always be cookies and cream.
Right.
It's going to be hard sometimes, and it's going to be hurtful sometimes. And I just have to, what's that movie? Hangover.
Yes.
And the guy is like, but did you die though? So like every time I feel a little down, that little thing comes in my head, like, but did I die though? Like, I got to get back up, brush myself off, and figure it the fuck out. So, and I guess my newest thing though that I have learned is, which is strange, right? Is like how to release this narrative of how I have to be strong all the time, and like actually ask for help from anyone who's willing to give it. So just like release it. Like, I don't know everything. I am not excellent at everything. Sometimes I'm in very vulnerable positions and I'm lost. And the way to move forward is to allow people in to help.
Yeah, that's wow. You said so many things. And I think, I asked that question because it is so important to see people that look like me doing the type of work that you're doing. And I know it's important. Representation is important to young women, and things like that. But I love how you talked about it's actually, yes, you are a Black woman, but you're an excellent person, right? You're an excellent thinker. You're an excellent, you're at this like really high caliber level. And that's what really sort of is significant about it, right? And then, the last part, learning how to ask for help. I can't even tell you how many times I've been told that I'm a strong Black woman and all these different things. And it's like, look, y'all, like that narrative has got to go.
Yeah, I got to go to sleep. I'm at the age where I need to take adult naps. So
I love me a good nap. Love me a good nap. But I think that's really important as well, is you grow when you realize that you can ask for help and that you don't have to do everything yourself. So I really commend you for that, because that is definitely a big learning moment in life.